Hey everybody, Scott Barboza for ESPNBoston.com. High schools one last time from Gillette Stadium, joined by John Sarianidis and of course my compadre Brennan Hall, recapping not only this night of 6 championship games here at Gillette Stadium, but also the 2013 football season. So gentlemen, John, I'll start with you because you're closest to me here. A couple of takeaways from today and what you saw here today.
I was really impressed with Littleton. You know, with the Bassett kid, the diversity of their offense, they really impressed me. And I was also impressed with Mansfield. I mean, you can't say enough about the job that Mike Redding and his coaching staff did. Playing without Brendan Hill, catering the game plan around their backs, getting Mike Hirschman involved, getting Vlad Perez more involved. Again, we talked about that going into this game, that we felt they were going to go back to old school Mansfield, wing T-I. They did that. They ended up rushing for 299 yards and won the game.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Doherty. I thought for all the good defense that Dennis Yarn has played, I thought Michael Dunn did an excellent job on Alfred Adarkwa. But as you've seen all playoffs with him, he's 6'4", he's got this ridiculous catching radius, 6'7". Yeah. He's really like a late inning pinch hitter in a playoff series. Really, he all he needs is one got to play to break it open. He broke it open on that touchdown catch, and it changes the dynamic of the game. I thought the best overall player both ways, for all the good that Travis Bassett did, was Isaac Yiadom. 7 catches, 137 yards, a touchdown, and some tremendous plays on defense. One of the biggest sticks, I thought, of the day was that one he laid over the middle late in the game. I can't say enough about him. Also, Central Catholic, really just from the beginning of that game, laying the wood, right at the beginning there, Cody Demers with that crackback block, and Mike really Milano springs it loose. That really sets it loose for what was a game that they doubled up on Zavarian. I don't think a lot of people saw that happening. I thought we were going to see a low-scoring affair, maybe kind of a knockdown, drag-out. That's the style of plays Zavarian likes to play. But as you and I said earlier today, they brought the violence today.
I think you have to look at Tewksbury. I mean, obviously it was a black and blue game projected coming in here, but the Redmen, really no doubt in this game. I think if you can keep Dylan Oxen to 18 carries and under 100 yards, too, with the 10-minute quarters. They really took Plymouth South out of their game plan. And James Sullivan, I thought, was just perhaps, outside of perhaps Yiadom, I think the best player here today. I mean, he showed up in every phase of the game. It was pretty tremendous, though. But now that we have taken a look back on today here, I think the overarching theme, when we were at this very moment last year, we were looking forward to this moment and being able to crown 6 state champions. Having seen this through the first year, Brennan, I'll start with you. What are the things that really shone through this year?
I think the thing that sticks out most to me is how much more tense the opening weeks of the season were. Usually, for having been done this for 10 years, the momentum starts building up week 5 or week 6 as the league standings, as the league title races start coming into play. But right off the bat, you got to play for points. You got to schedule big. You got to schedule hard. You saw some great matchups each and every week in a regular season. Then you saw some teams going some unprecedented runs here. St. John's running through D2 Central, heavily favored by Leominster, then knocking off Springfield Central, one of the most dramatic games I've seen in a while to get here. Gillette, and obviously they came up short, but there was a lot of drama throughout the playoffs. We saw that Division II South. What theatrics were there between Barnstable, Natick, Mansfield, Needham, and the like. Every week it was a dogfight. And that's what you want to see. Okay, it seems like a long season, but it's 4 months, guys. You know, you can't make this window of drama just like 2 or 3 weeks in November when everybody feels like it. There's no time to waste. And I think they got it right. There's obviously a few tweaks that I want to make, but for the overarching theme here, I think got the mission accomplished. We saw some great crowds here today, much better than last year.
Yeah, I'll ask this to you, John. Obviously, as a former recent coach here, talking to some of your friends within the community, what was the general reaction from the coaching community getting that perspective and things they might have wanted to improve or how they approached this year?
I think most coaches liked it. I think one of the biggest issues they had was the automatic qualifier, and we talked about this throughout the season. You got a school like Medway that didn't get in because of that. So I think a lot of coaches feel that if you can get rid of the automatic qualifier and make it more about your power ranking and your schedule and who you play, I think coaches would rather see that. The other concern that I think coaches had was that first week, that week 1 and that 1A week. Most coaches would rather play that week than have what amounts to 2 byes because you're going to end up taking a bye the first 3 weeks, and then you'll get the bye before Thanksgiving. They would rather get 8 games in and play 3 on the back end, including Thanksgiving. I think these are some of the tweaks we're going to see. But overall, I thought it was a success, and I think it's here to stay. I don't think it's going anywhere. Sure. For those diehards that want that old system back that promotes the leagues, I don't think we're going to see that. I think it's gone.
Brendan, speaking of the tweaks, what in particular I think would you address?
Yeah, I agree here, the automatic qualifiers. Look, I understand in Eastern Mass, protecting the sanctity of the leagues with so much history with each league, I understand that. But to give 2 berths to a league, what if there's a weak year for a league? You're rewarding complacency. I think you really have to put the emphasis on playing a good schedule, getting those points. The other thing I would do, too, is Division I, I think back to the Lowell-Leominster game where Leominster kind of dominated the game against Lowell, and that was a top 5 team in the state, as we saw. And Lowell, even if they had won, they would have gotten 8 points from that. I think they need to change the structure at the top to reward playing, quality D2 programs that are looking for a good shot at somebody. I think that's something they're going to have to fix going forward. So.
And, of course, the key looking forward now. 2013's in the books. 2014, well, heck, it ain't that far off. John, let's start with you. A couple teams that you've observed either today. Actually, let's first start with today. Which of these teams today could you possibly see coming back to this stage and perhaps winning another one of these?
Well, I don't know about winning, but I think Xaverian, we talked about it. They have a lot coming back. They're a talented program. They usually replenish their roster. They're a team I see coming back. As far as other teams that could be here next year that weren't here this year, Holliston brings everybody back. They're loaded next year. And Walpole, they were really young. The question with them is you have Quay, he's the centerpiece of your offense. Can you find a quarterback? If they have a quarterback there, and I know they have a sophomore they really like, they're going to be a factor. They could potentially end up here out of Division III.
Yeah, I got to agree with John about the Xaverian being back here next year. I think you see some of the underclassmen they got. Mackay Henderson, a guy we've talked a lot about, DeAndre Holmes, Jake Farrell, et cetera, et cetera. Joe Gaziano is still coming back.
Year.
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy.
For the year that he had, he's only a junior. I think they're absolutely the favorite in D1 South going into next year. And, I'm going to make another, maybe this isn't as bold as last year when I said Natick will be right back here, but Everett, okay, it's hard to imagine. It's been almost 2 weeks now since they've ended their season. It's talking to people, whatever. It's weird looking forward to basketball season this early. This is something that was their manifest destiny year in, year out, and to lose, in the D1 North bracket, I think there's a lot of disappointment in that town, and they got a lot of good kids coming back. Lucas Dennis. We're going to see Jordan McAfee potentially be unleashed here. Yep. He's a freshman they've been thinking very highly of. The line was young. I know they lose some key components on defense. Angel Duarte, Lubin Figaro's going to Wisconsin, C.J. Parvelis, Josh Palmer. Yeah. But they're going to be back here. I really think. You got to know they're going to be in the way. That's going to be over their head all off season. You guys didn't make it here. Yeah. This is something that you could have run and you couldn't be here. So.
I think even though, some of the key elements of that Central Catholic defense are graduating, going on to bigger and better things, but they also have some pretty good parts there, and I think they could still make some hay in the MVC heading into next year. But again, just on the overarching, John, you mentioned a team like Holliston that, was in the playoff mix. Perhaps a team that's lying in the weeds that you think could really break out next year.
Well, I think when you go back to the Tri-Valley, I think a program like Hopkinton, we talked about that off the air, they're a young program. They're a program to keep an eye on. The Tri-Valley is not the Tri-Valley of old. It's a good league now, and it's a big-time league. Yes. You saw the 3 games this year with Holliston and Westwood. That league has gotten better as a whole, so they're a program to me to keep an eye on. Are they good enough to get here? I'm not sure about that, but they certainly have a lot of talent coming back. They'll be in the mix. And again, one of the biggest stories going into next year for me is going to be how down potentially the Bay State League and the Hockomock can be. When was the last time we said that the Hawk is down? Well, next year could be that year. It was a senior-laden league. It's going to be up for grabs next year. I'm curious to see what happens. Obviously, North Attleboro brings a bunch of guys back. Foxborough on the Davenport side brings a lot of guys back. But can Attleboro repeat the magic? KP, can they keep going with what they've been doing lately? Franklin graduates a lot, so I'm curious to see what the Hawk and the Bay State are going to look like next year.
Brendan?
We saw this last year with Karan Wright from Holy Name, the pint-sized running back who set the Central Mass rushing record and one of the all-time leading rushers in this history of the state. I think next year we're going to see the year of the miniature running back, the 5'5". I don't mean to say miniature as a derogatory.
Darren Sproul.
The Darren Sproles type that's a great analogy. I think you look at Christian Carr setting the single season rushing record for Plymouth North, hiding behind those big bodies, so tough and just great top end speed. And a guy that not many people are talking about outside of 485, Mike Magapinto, sophomore from East Longmeadow, probably about 5'5", 5'6", ran for 2,000 yards this year as a sophomore. Same deal, hiding behind big backs, low center of gravity, doesn't take a lot of big shots. He's durable. He's got top end speed. These are two running backs that I think we're going to have to keep an eye on next year, and could lead their teams to some playoff runs deep.
You speak of the Hockomock League, John. I'm taking a look at Attleboro. I mean, obviously one of the great stories this year. They still have some pieces there coming back. Damon Bellin was a kid, didn't even start the season on the varsity roster, made huge strides there, and of course they got Kyle Murphy, outstanding sophomore. That's a good piece to build around there, so I think they'll be just fine. But perhaps some other players, John, in your opinion, that you come across this year, look out for next year.
Well, I was really impressed with Holliston. Again, I can't say that enough. A lot of the teams we played were senior-laden teams in our league, but I'll give you the one name that everybody knows, but he got hurt at the beginning of the season, and we obviously didn't play, Brian Dunlap. He's the X factor in the Bay State League. If Natick could put some pieces around him, if they could figure out their quarterback situation, the Fox kids are pretty good back. You get Brian Dunlap back, they're going to be a team that a lot of people are going to dismiss. But to me, they played a lot more young kids this year, particularly up front and in their backfield, than people think. They'll be in the mix in the Herget. It's Brian Dunlap. What's he going to do, and what are they going to do with him? Coach Mortarelli says we're going to get him the ball on every down. Well, they're not going to do that, but you got to figure he's going to be an X factor in Eastern Mass.
There's going to be a couple of scenarios like that. I know they've been talking about potentially if they want to get the ball in his hands, why not make him a quarterback, run an option game maybe.
Absolutely.
We're going to see this with St. John's next year. Shane Combs, the running back, the Notre Dame baseball commit, he's back next year. Could he move to quarterback? Or could they put Davon Jones at running back, move him out of the slot? But again, do you pigeonhole them in one position because they're so versatile? You're going to see a couple of those across the state. The wide receiver to quarterback transition is a popular one. But bottom line, we're seeing now in a lot of offense, you want to get your playmakers the ball in every chance possible. In a case like Tewksbury, that's 5 different guys, but in another offense, in a case like St. John's, Andrew Smiley want to get in the ball every chance possible. He's your best athlete. We're going to see a lot of that next couple of years. Guys moving around, I think, a lot of different positions to take care of their athleticism.
Obviously, a lot to look forward to next year, but I think we're going to tie up a little bit of a bow here on 2013. Of course, always a true heartfelt thanks to John Sarianides. Always does a great, insightful job breaking down the whole action here. Personal thank you from me to the crew that makes everything that we do possible. Brennan, if you got anything to add.
Guys, good night, lovers. Good night, haters. I love you all. You guys are the best. You guys are the best readers. You guys are the best fans. You guys, we wouldn't be where we were if it weren't for the social media interaction, if it weren't for our live chats, if it weren't for you guys heckling me wherever I am. I love it. I love it, guys. I embrace it. I think it's what makes us so exciting because I really feel the love from everybody. So I want to thank you guys for coming along for the ride, too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun. And, of course, we got a little bit more to go. We'll have one more chat for you tomorrow night. And, of course, looking forward to Mr. Football, All-State, all that stuff. And, of course, don't forget, the road to DCU and the road to the Garden starts this week. So, for John Sarianides, for Brennan Hall, I'm Scott Barboza. Keep it tuned to ESPNBoston.com High Schools.